Hello and welcome to Vishnu's IAS Academy, Hyderabad, your one-stop destination for perfect UPSC preparation, as thousands of dreams are becoming a reality each day at Vishnu's IAS. Now is your turn to like, subscribe, follow our channel for the latest updates regarding notes, preparations and the classes that we are holding for the upcoming mains and for the prelims 26. With that, let me welcome you to today's The Hindu Hyderabad edition analysis, where we shall be looking at UPSC relevant articles from today's newspaper. The paper opens by talking about, once again, Israel-Iran conflict. The news on the left-hand column says Iran is once again ready to consider diplomacy. It is ready to negotiate regarding its so-called nuclear enrichment program if aggression from Israel is ready to stop. The head officials at Iran have said that not only are they ready to be accountable for the nuclear arsenal they hold, they were continuing a talk with the US. They will take the dialogue forward. They will also be open up for investigation under the IAEA norms, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency. But all this only if Israeli aggression and constant attack is stopped right now, as the death count of the citizens is just rising. Both sides seem to be finishing about 9 days already, and yet we do not see any signs of the war coming down. It is impacting the entire West Asian stability. Apart from that, US decision on active mediation is still not clear. So the news says is that Iran is ready to further discuss many other important questions, provided Iran just wants an immediate stopping of the aggression. With that, the right hand side column also talks about the same issue, but with regards to Indian residents and students, it says that Iran is allowing evacuation and safety of all the flights that are coming to India carrying our citizens back during and amidst its Israeli conflict. As the fight is still continuing, we have been successfully carrying about 1,000 Indian nationals back to India. There are many who are still trapped in the war zone. Understanding the complexity of the situation, the Indian embassy is constantly negotiating and trying best that these people would be rescued, with over 290 students already who have flown in and landed at New Delhi. So the evacuation is still undergoing, and please understand the name is Operation Sindhu. That's important for the exam. Now let's proceed with the further articles on today's newspaper. And we know, as we celebrate the International Yoga Day, not only in Hyderabad but across most countries in the world and across most cities in India, people are doing a joint collective yoga. They are thanking Indian initiative of introducing the whole concept of international yoga here at the United Nations. Now with that, there is an article on the local paper, on the local page of the paper. This is the Telangana column, but there's one news here which looks quite exciting from the perspective of the exam, and it talks about how can we create a circular economy. Remember, we often talk about how we can generate economic growth as well as environmental balance by adopting a method where waste from one segment of the economy becomes a raw material for some other economy. It's quite visible in this initiative where the crop residue is providing nutritious food for the cattle, which means for the dairy and the animal rearing segment. All the agriculture waste in the state of Telangana is proving to be a blessing. Not only is it enabling the waste getting utilized in a productive manner, but also it ensures organic feed for our animals, further enriching the purity of the food cycle of the dairy products that we supply. Having said this, the article is saying that typically if we burn agriculture waste, we know every year the Delhi NCR region experiences toxic air quality. Most environmentalists have blamed the issue on stubble burning in the nearby states of Haryana and Punjab. Now these things can be mitigated if exactly this model in Telangana is adopted. Rather than burning waste, scientists at the Indian Institute of Chemical Technology also say that the solution to the problem of dealing with agriculture waste and residue is to provide paddy straw and rice or wheat husk as fodder feed from that. Now, this is something that the scientists have been working on for a very long time, along with the support from local farmers, self-help groups and NGOs. Today, we see a situation where the farmers have been able to create a situation where rather than having to burning the crop remains, causing a lot of carbon emission, causing environmental problems, they are able to provide this as cattle fodder. For example, the rice husk or the rice straw. When burnt, the CO2 footprint is high. It releases heavy carbon dioxide. But when provided as cattle fodder, it's easy for the cattle to digest. It's a very organic food for them, and in return it also reduces dependence on, say, non-organic crop feeding. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. It's a very hand and glove relationship between agriculture, the cattle rearing industry. It also promotes more employment in the agriculture allied activities like animal farming, or for that matter mixed farming, where dealing with cattle and animals is an important part alongside farming practices to boost the revenue of the farmers. Something similar came to light when just 2 years before in Chhattisgarh, a very important scheme called the Godhan scheme was implemented, where rather than wasting waste products coming from cattle, these were processed, these were then taken care of and refined by hand and then sold as manures to various farmers. It was also used to make herbicides and pesticides to be used in agriculture. So once again, the problem of waste can be channelized into being used in other industries. All in all, it's a great idea towards achieving a circular economy. This can be used as a case study in your answer writing, typically in GS paper 3, which talks about ecology. It talks about concepts such as circular economy. It also talks about agriculture problem. So definitely we can mention these schemes as case studies here. There have been multiple field trials being done by the National Research Center on meat in similar districts near and areas near Hyderabad. It is also showing remarkable improvement in the digestive capacity of cattle when fed with agricultural rice and wheat husk residues. So that was the article all about. Now let's quickly go ahead and read the newses from your editorial page, the most important part of the newspaper every day. And here the first article once again is quite resembling what we read in the editorial page yesterday. Remember, yesterday the main article spoke about failing Indian diplomacy. It was mentioning in various ways how Indian diplomacy today is not as successful as it used to be just 1 decade before. Until the Mumbai terror attacks of 2008, the world was having a pro-India attitude. We achieved a lot of understanding and support in the global community in the face of terror attacks. But recently, in the spate of the Pahalgam attack, the same diplomacy doesn't seem to be working. If that was yesterday's article tone, today's article is also talking about something similar, but with reference to the Iran-Israel conflict in West Asia. This article says that Indian government today is in a difficult spot. There are 2 reasons. One reason is that Israel being a key ally of India, a key supporter of India. Second reason is that India has been sharing a great historical relation with Iran as well, not only in terms of bilateral trade between the 2 countries, also in terms of the massive Indian force that works in Iran and a huge student base who are studying in Iran, various universities and technical colleges. In that light, it is a difficult call for India. When speaking about Russia and Ukraine problem, India refused to endorse against Russia formally, despite the fact that India continued to support Ukrainian crisis and it extended sympathy for the plight of residents who were suffering. But in this case, Indian diplomacy seems to be facing a big dilemma, whether to openly endorse a protocol against Israeli aggression in Iran or to just stay on the fence, which means to do nothing and be a neutral observer. In this case, the article talks about how, once again, as Israel is initiating a military engagement with Iran, it is causing a very troublesome situation in entire West Asia, particularly Iran itself. Saying that, it says Indian National Congress as a key opposition party in India, has openly criticized the bombings and targeted attacks at citizens within Iranian soil. The reason given by Israel, we all know, is to attack and to end the nuclear ambitions of Iran. The article, however, says that if Israel's intention was only to put an end to Iranian increasing nuclear power, then why is Israeli aggression even today continuing in Gaza? There is no active involvement anymore with the Hezbollah or the Hamas. Then why are the residents in Gaza still losing their lives? The article also says that it is very brutal and disproportionate action on the part of Israel, because Israel itself has a huge and a very systematic nuclear strength. If Israel's own military strength is something to reckon with, if it is massive and huge, then how come Israel has chosen to attack and take a punitive action against Iran in that case? Doesn't it show diplomacy or rather double standards in global diplomacy on the part of Israel? It also says that all this is coming at a time when 5 rounds of peaceful negotiations were conducted between Iran and the United States. It was coming with a promise that whatever is Iran's military and nuclear capacity, that will be disclosed, and there will be a transparency in Iran's nuclear power, its nuclear strength, and it shall declare it quite transparently to the global community. But as we see the developments that are happening recently, the Director General of National Intelligence of United States, Ms. Tulsi Gabbard, has also said that Iran was not pursuing any active nuclear weapons program, at least at this time. However, the stand coming from US President Donald Trump seems to be saying something quite different. He has not categorically supported Iran, but he's saying we want another few weeks to wait and observe how things go, which means US diplomacy is also not very clear-cut on this issue. With that, let's also understand that in the current Israeli leadership, as we talk about Prime Minister Netanyahu, we know that for a very long time, West Asia has been experiencing a lot of disruption and problems owing to his aggressive foreign policies against the neighbor. The article also says that he is continuing to expand certain illegal settlements in alliance with ultra or very, very strong nationalist groups that support Israeli expansion in the region. What does that mean? It means Israel therefore has never respected the two-state solution, which was all about negotiating and creating a clear-cut identification of mutually respected territories of both Israel as well as Palestine. But Israel had not agreed to that either, which meant that Palestinian people's suffering, the exact territory which they can claim for themselves, was never identified. The area therefore seems to be in an ongoing continuous conflict. Further, the article says that if we go by history, then the hatred that Israel is perpetrating right now in the area also had led long back in 1995 to the assassination of Prime Minister Rabin. He was somebody who was interested in undergoing peaceful negotiations among the Israeli and the Palestinian people. So that could not see the light of the day. Hence, the region still hangs in the dark. The article says that Mr. Netanyahu's today's commitment of continuing the war, and therefore even from the front of Iran today says that we are not the country who are ready to surrender. Similar claim is coming by Israel. So without a third party mediation, do we see a soon end to the war? That is not looking very promising right now. It also shows that Iran, as said by Israel, is possessing weapons of mass destruction. And if we do not stop Iran, that Israel said, will lead to a very costly war in the future. And hence, the attacks continued. Remember, long back in history, something similar was said about Iraq as well. And eventually what happened? US took an action. There was massive destruction in Iraq. Citizens ended up paying a massive price. So therefore, the article says that today we need no double standards, but more clarity for world peace. Because when a war happens in West Asia, which has been happening now for so many years, earlier Israel, Palestine, now Israel, Iran, it disturbs other countries' economies too. Let's understand, in the global world of today, we are all interconnected through trade and migration ties. Today, as West Asia is under problem, India also suffers deeply. Then the article says that India has faced so many consequences. For example, the reimposing of sanctions on Iran has stopped India from pursuing its own projects for development, such as the International North-South Transport Corridor, the development of the Chabahar port. Similarly, it has also disabled all Indian intentions of creating a better connectivity with Central Asia so that we have a more direct access via Afghanistan without depending on Pakistan. So our projects are also suffering because of the limbo or the problem that's going on in West Asia right now. Having said that, the article is saying that today, if we favor Israel blindly, we are taking a step back with regards to India-Iran deep ties. Let's remember that India has had a very long-stand friendship with Iran, which means Iran was a civilization which has deeply supported India long back, even during the Jammu and Kashmir issue. In 1994, Iran had helped stopping a resolution which was criticizing India in the UN Commission of Human Rights on the Kashmir issue and the treatment of minorities. Besides that, the article says that Iran has not just been cooperative with India since its history, but especially the present government has really been very, very supportive of India's initiatives and Indian foreign policy. With that, let's understand that India and Israel at the same time are also two countries who share a very deep strategic relationship. So therefore, should India act neutrally, or should India use all its diplomacy, all its good relation with both these countries and try to negotiate support for a ceasefire in its own interest, in the global interest? It's a question raised by the article. The article also says that Israel's recent actions against Iran once again remind the fact that today, enabled by some support, an unconditional support coming from Western superpowers. Now, very diplomatically, the writer is not taking a name here, but it's up to us to decode, and I think we can understand whom the article is pointing out to. Article says that certain Western powers, in the interest of their own arms and ammunition sales, in the interest of deriving profit from weapon sales, in their own interest of creating buffer zones in conflict areas, are continuing to support these countries to fight rather than to stop. Let's believe that Indian National Congress, as I said, a key opposition party in India, today is condemning this attack. It says that it is unacceptable. But the same thing Indian National Congress had also said back when Hamas had attacked Israel deeply and injured so many citizens. Now, more than 55,000 Palestinians have lost their lives recently, and families, neighbors and hospitals, they all have been in a difficult situation. People aren't getting medical aid either, and this includes very innocent citizens, including women, children and the elderly, of course. So therefore, Gaza today once again is on the brink of humanitarian crisis. History has seen so many of them, whether it's Yemen or whether it's Syria, whether it's the countries of sub-Saharan Africa. Children dying of malnourishment, hospitals being overloaded without medication, and genocide is what Gaza is experiencing today. And therefore, in this humanitarian crisis, the Indian government led by Mr. Modi has now only one choice: to act to the best of its capacity, understanding the fact that both countries are our key allies in some way or the other, to try to propagate solutions like commitment to the two-state solution eventually, or similarly understanding the independence of all these countries, requesting them to maintain their sovereignty, supporting all help that we can provide to the victims, and then of course taking a clear-cut policy where India not only tolerates terror on its own soil but doesn't support any terror attack anywhere in the world, no matter who's involved in the situation. It could be a friend, but we are non-tolerating towards any terror attack or violence. That's the pitch of the article here. And it says it is India's moral responsibility to discard and to reject any violence, whether even if it's coming from a close friendly state like Israel. With that, the second article of the day talks about another foreign policy related issue. So today's newspaper in volumes talks about foreign policy, talks about international relations. The second article also talks about the India-UK, United Kingdom, cultural and trade relationships. If you remember, some of you may not be remembering, in fact, 6 months before or so, in the Hindu, there was a very interesting article in the front page editorial which spoke about cultural economy. That day I had explained the meaning of cultural economy. Cultural economy is that side of an economy which deals with areas such as art, architecture, music and handicrafts. Remember, economy can be informal or formal. Remember, economy can be one that deals into technology like your hardware, software, or any IT related occupations. At the same time, there are certain other aspects of the economy which deal with vocational skills. We could talk about traditional handicrafts, we could talk about domestic manufacturing of any kinds, and of course we could talk about, say, people providing services of art, literature, as I said, architecture, music. A lot of us presume that it is the IT domain which is the driver of the economy. But today, as we zero down to 2025, the world economy is changing in a major way. Today, Indian economy is one that stands at the forefront of its cultural power. We as a culture, we as a country where there is a tremendous scope for vocational skills, as highlighted by our commitment even in the new education policy 2020 and various schemes like the PM Vishwakarma scheme or Skill India mission or the Atmanirbhar Bharat, all these talk about making India the Vishwa Guru, not only in the IT services but also in the cultural economy. So therefore the article says today India-UK relationship or trade relationship is heavily dependent on cultural relations between the two nations, cultural exchange between the two nations, not just exchange of ideas, of people, of music and art, but literally trade, a profitable trade in cultural economy, including art, architecture, dance, music, culinary sciences and handicrafts. So let me quickly break down the article. I have told you the entire gist of the article. Article is very relevant for social issues, GS paper 1, social justice, employment, economy, GS paper 2, of course GS paper 3, economy, and of course it talks about GS paper 2 where we are referring to international relations. Multifaceted article. The article says that India and UK relationship today is experiencing a very new domain. Remember, there was a heartbreak when, because of the high tariffs imposed by the Trump government, India was in a difficult position to close the bilateral trade with the US by the first week of July. It was a painful spot to be in because US wasn't compromising in reducing the tariffs on key areas like aluminium and steel. But with UK, the things are slightly different and it's a good news for us because India and United Kingdom, both of them were waiting all these months to sign the free trade agreement. It was agreed to by the leaderships in both the countries. Today, a time is coming when we are reaching another milestone, another achievement. This achievement comes in the form of one part of the economy that many people don't know, and that is cultural economy or the culture itself. A lot of you may be wondering, what is culture? Culture is a very misunderstood phenomenon. Culture in reality could refer to your values, lifestyle, your fooding behavior, your clothing style, your language. It also determines your art expressions, the way you have material culture of architecture in your country, the belief system a country maintains. Of course, it also includes an element of its religious attitude, traditional handicrafts. All of these are the cultural components of a country. With that in mind, let's understand recently on the first week of May, United Kingdom Secretary of State for Culture, they did an exchange program which was referred to as the Program of Culture Cooperation. Please remember this word, it's called POCC. In this program, the idea was to make an agreement where both the countries will create a cultural corridor between themselves that will enable them to share unique aspects of their cultural economy. This will go parallel, side by side, but equally important it will be, apart from the main important revenue driving sectors like trade in material goods, trade in IT services. This will also be a third pillar of the negotiation between them or the Free Trade Act between them. The article says the POCC, I'll repeat, Program of Cultural Cooperation, is all about creating cooperation and trade in 5 areas. Which are these 5 areas? One is digital technologies for culture, AI use in culture. Second happens to be exhibitions and collections. Third happens to be performance and events. And then it happens to be cultural property and sustainability. These will try to create more support between the countries for a cultural economy, an economy which will lead to more and more cross-culture collaborations, exchange program in universities, exchange programs between artists, singers, dancers, musicians, culinary experts, between traditional and vocational handicraft experts and business houses. Not only will we do a trade that will be based on a FTA, that is free trade agreement, but we'll also create more and more exhibitions, symposiums, workshops where artisans from both the countries are able to learn and exchange their skills with one another. With that in mind, before coming to Delhi, the UK Secretary of State also said that the highest ranking international delegate recently at a summit known as the World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit that was held in Mumbai, she said that here one of the highest representations came from UK itself, UK art and culture. It means that they highlighted, or she highlighted rather, when she was in India, the potential of improving each other's, India and UK's cultural and creative industries. We can do this in a very, very sustainable manner, also because it leads to not only revenue generation but more employment generation in both the countries. With that in mind, let's understand, globally, does creative economy has a place? Article says yes, it does, because globally, talking about the global market, the creative arts sector is a growing segment. It is projected to reach 10% of the entire global GDP by just 2030. At the G20 New Delhi summit that had happened just about 2 years before, that's in 2023, remember how so many leaders from the globe were ready to invest in India's culture economy. India was therefore hosting a very interesting agreement known as the WAVES, or the WAVES. The purpose was again to highlight the culture diversity in India and how can that translate in more employment opportunities. It says that this agreement, the POCC, the Program of Culture Cooperation between India and UK today, is also therefore gaining momentum very fast. The article further proceeds by saying that with India it's wonderful news. Why? Because for India it means not only will we create a more technology-driven cultural economy, but also we will create more and more vocational crafts for unemployed people in India. Let's remember, employment generation in India has always been a challenge. We all understand why. We know, despite talking about a very, very AI-oriented economy, Mission AI, all of that, these are very, very promising, but they are also very futuristic. Talking about today, 2025, we understand that less than 30% economy has given employment to people in productive jobs, which means less than 30% people are in the formal regulated economy. The remaining are all lagging behind in the informal sector. Some of them possess great skills, great cultural skills of various kinds. The talent hub is huge in India. There is a massive scope for selling them and becoming entrepreneurs, but there's a lack of commercialization ability. There is a lack of market awareness. There is a lack of investment opportunity. People can't start business owing to a poor capital source. So all this will be taken care of as India is trying to now promote a free trade agreement where so many people will be given an opportunity to go to the UK, learn and get trained in various cultural skills. Also, they will be given access to the market to directly sell these products in exhibitions and workshops. So what can be better for a country who is trying to constantly push for a better employability of its youth? With that, India is therefore today in a situation where our creative economy has been valued at $35 billion. Also, it means it is next only to agriculture when it comes to giving employment to people. We also understand today agriculture is no more a sustainable source of employment for Indians. Therefore, the creative economy can be the next best area for those who are yet left behind and they are not completely perfect in the digital formal education skills. With that, the article is also saying that in 2023, as India was hosting the G20 presidency, UK was right behind India and supporting its cultural agenda. Both of them spoke about 1 year long commitment to carry on cultural programs, such as I said, there was Wales in India. In 2024, a very famous festival in Nagaland called the Hornbill Festival that was celebrated with people coming from UK, understanding the nature of the festival, learning certain things about it, inviting the local people to come to the UK and showcase their cultural richness. So all that further, which means India-UK cultural ties will only going to get stronger as we evolve. Now, in that light, we are also trying to say in the article that today India faces a problem of skilled labor. We know it's a structural unemployment problem because India is a very complex situation talking about unemployment. We can't say jobs are not there because there is a heavy population. It's not true. Sometimes there are jobs available, but the employability of people is under question. People may not be ready with the digital skills of today's job market. And hence comes the importance of cultural economy. That if they cannot participate in the formal AI-driven digital economy, then definitely they can work for the creative economy. All they need is skill enhancement and better market access. And this, the key agreement between India and UK is willing to provide. Article then proceeds to say that in India, as we talk about artificial intelligence as a rising sector, augmented reality as a rising sector, virtual reality, it's called the AR, VAR sector. In this sector, we believe that if at all we are able to take the benefit of AI and apply it more to the creative economy, it would mean a wonderful set of jobs that people in India will start getting. So overall, there shall be a much better boost in Indian youth's earning potential in India or in the UK. With that, the article also says the Prime Minister of India is also saying that India should become a global creative hub in the times to come. Indian companies also, such as we talk about the Royal Enfield, the iconic UK India motorcycle brand, it is also working in the Himalayas through a project that is a tie between UNESCO and India. It is trying to create so many, about 580 artisans are being trained under a project called Textile Conservation Project. This initiative is trying to built upon the traditional textile skills that India has. Talk about Ajrak, talk about Bandhani, talk about Kalamkari, or talk about, the Pulkari. India is a rich landscape of textile diversity also. With that, both these institutes are working to train artisans on commercial lines, give them a market for their products, allow and apply for more GI tag indexing, and all these will translate in employment. That's what the 4C, that article has done. So truly today behind India and UK trying to create the FTA is a much bigger promise that not only should we create cultural exchange but also people exchange, allowing smoother migration and immigration to improve the capacity of Indian labor force itself. And that's all the article is about. With that, as we proceed further, we see that in Manipur, the violence is once again continuing and creating so many tensions because the two districts especially where most of the Mighty and Kuki women are experiencing a lot of war-related crimes have been in the news. There has been a curfew situation, a complete shutdown of essential services, and also the Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum has also demanded that immediately it should be a shutdown situation because there is no movement of people that's considered safe in this area right now, particularly the district of Bishnupur. One of the 5 districts which has been experiencing consistent violence is also experiencing a paralysis of basic services, calls for an immediate attention. With that, we go forward and see which other newses are crucial. So as we proceed down, another similar news about the Axiom 4 mission, which is carrying Subhanshu Shukla's India's astronaut who will be trained into the International Space Station, various experimentations, quite an ambitious mission, but consistently it's been facing delays, sometimes weather oriented, sometimes technical snag. So now also the mission is experiencing a delay, and which is the next day that the mission is supposed to be launched has not been clarified yet. So that's hanging in the limbo somewhere. And with that, as we proceed forward, we see another news on the world page. This is worth reading. The news says that the International Atomic Energy Agency is warning now of a nuclear disaster if the consistent exchange of missiles and firing between Iran and Israel continues, because if by mistake an attack from Israel happens to hit a prominent area known as the Bushehr nuclear plant in Iran, then it could mean active radioactive leakage. Once radioactive leakage starts, citizens may have to evacuate immediately, otherwise a health crisis will soon ensue. So various scientists who have together worked on the Bushehr nuclear plant in Iran's southern region, are claiming that immediately the war should stop, because in case there is any attack even in nearby region of this plant, it can create a very sensitive situation, and in such a short span of time, evacuation of many people, which are about several hundred kilometers in the area of this plant, will become possibly very difficult for the government to carry out. So therefore, it also says that the population in that case would have to take iodine supplements. We all know it is given in the case there is a fear of a nuclear leakage, or the leakage of the radioactive material from any active nuclear plant. So in that case, we may see that food supplies will be restricted. There will be a stopping of food supply, and people will be given this tablet immediately in case in future any such attack happens in the nearby territory. But that could also mean killing of 1,000 people. So hence, that's the warning issued by the IAEA as the war continues. Then there is the next news on the same page, which talks about a trilateral dialogue between India's neighbors, including Bangladesh, Pakistan and China. In first such trilateral dialogue, the countries have come together. They are doing an office level discussion in dealing with the trade related issues, better diplomatic smooth ties with each other, supporting each other. It's the first time three countries have come together ever since in Bangladesh there was a complete political upsurge and the new government by Mohammed Yunus was in power. So therefore the government will be visiting China from, it has already been touring China, and it is yet to be seen from 2026 to 2029 how various negotiation between the three countries turn out, and what will it mean for India, including its key neighbors in the discussion. That's something we are yet to see. And one very interesting news piece was about euthanasia. Euthanasia is about helping a patient to die in case the patient is a victim of terminal disease and has very limited time remaining to live, say for example 6 months or less than that. It's a very debatable question, very crucial also for your UPSC GS paper 4 ethics. Apart from being a crucial political issue and social issue, here the article is talking about how in the United Kingdom the House of Commons has, with a thin margin, passed a bill which talks about allowing assisted dying in the UK. Please, if you know which countries in the Europe have already agreed and signed the bill on assisted dying, which countries allow for legal euthanasia, do let us know in the comment box, and we shall take your name. Of course, we shall engage with your comment and reply to you. So do reply in the comment box if you are aware of any such country. In the meantime, as the bill has been passed, known as the Terminally Ill Adults End to Life Bill, it's usually in common parlance and language known as assisted dying bill, where people who have a limited time left, with approval from a psychiatrist, at least 2 doctors and a lawyer, some social workers involved, will be able to take their decision regarding taking their own life. Quite important even from Indian perspective, because in India the last bill that actually make healthcare more democratic was the National Health Bill, or the National Health Policy 2017. I have told you multiple times how it has enabled certain new features in India's healthcare system, such as the consent taken from the patient, or the law or the clause on informed consent taken from the patient before any treatment can be administered. Also, in terms of mental health, how it has revolutionized Indian mental health. I spoke about decriminalizing the attempt to suicide, the IPC 309. So all these come in question that today if many countries adopt this, what will it mean to countries like India? So these are certain questions from ethics that you must keep asking yourself. With that, I'll take your news for today's Hindu analysis segment. I'll take your leave. Please comment, please like, please subscribe the channel so that we consistently reach out to you with all the beautiful initiatives we are doing to enable your success in the upcoming UPSC exam. Should you have any question, should you want us to take a particular topic that is nowadays in news, it could be about the West Asian war, it could be about the oil imports of India, it could be about questions like this, assisted dying, it could be about Manipur issue, it could definitely also be about any space mission. So do let us know, and it will be wonderful to engage with you, to listen to your comments. We shall get back to you and hold a special episode on that. We will discuss exactly the issues that you want to know more about, which excite you. And on that note, thank you so much from Vishnu IAS. See you very soon with another news chapter. Thank you.